Welcome to Conversations in Mind. This is a space for conscious inquiry, where metaphysics, new thought, and the science of mind meet real life. In a world calling for deeper awareness, we explore the nature of consciousness, the power of thought, and the presence of spirit moving through everyday experience. And now, here are your hosts, Barb Bue and Mark Gilbert.
Well, hello, everybody. What if your mind is more than just a collection of thoughts? And what if it is the gateway to a whole new way of living? Welcome to Conversations in Mind. I'm Reverend Barb. I'm joined by my friend and fellow minister, Reverend Mark Gilbert. We've been on this journey of talking about all sorts of things and attempting to kind of demystify the study of new thought, dive into the science and soul of consciousness, and ask good questions of each other. So if you're a longtime seeker or curious about perspective, we'll dive in and welcome you to join us in the conversation with your comments and feedback. And today we thought we would talk a little bit about teachers, spiritual teachers. Are they necessary? Or are they outdated? Which is kind of funny coming from a couple of people who like to teach.
This is true.
Yeah, I know. I do like to teach, but am I necessary? That's another question.
Yeah. And I think probably the question might be grounded in the sense of, the historical or sort of like the persona of a guru kind of thing, and are gurus necessary? Because I know when I was growing up and first growing up into the spiritual path, that was something, everybody was talking about, got to get a guru, kind of thing, especially if you were in anything into the Eastern religions. And, and I've known a lot of people who considered themselves gurus. And, I have to confess, I always thought there was a little bit of hubris coming through if you claimed yourself to be a guru.
That's funny because I have been so guru averse not in my seeking, but also definitely really very much so in my teaching.
Mm-hmm.
I do not want to live on pedestals. I am not a guru. I am a person who's living their growth in public and walking the path along with you. And maybe I've learned some things I can share, like the whole pedestal thing just mostly terrifies me. So
and most teachers that have resonated with me, I think they say the same thing. They feel the same way. And ditto. I've never considered myself any kind of a guru. I feel like I learn from everybody, and maybe occasionally I teach somebody something. So
and when you're open to, I don't know, the beauty of teaching for me is being open to what other people are learning and their experience of learning and what they've already learned that I can glean something from.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's to me, teaching is an exchange. It's almost like this.
Yeah. And the question too, Barb, is that, beyond the question of a guru, is a lot of people feel like now all they got to do is put on a YouTube video. I know I feel that way about, anything that I want to fix around the house or something. There's a video out there that can tell me how to do anything, or I can ask AI and it can give me a series of steps and stuff that is helpful for me. And, and so maybe the question is grounded in a little bit, and this technological revolution that we're in the middle of, that maybe teachers aren't necessary because there's so many resources we can tap that are not, that don't require us to have a quote unquote teacher that we're interacting with in a human to human relationship.
Yeah, I actually, I thought a lot about this today, because more and more, I think the beauty of being in a room of learners, whether you're the teacher or not, the beauty of being in a room full of learners is that personal interaction and those moments. Like I could ask AI all kinds of things, but I might not be asking the right question.
Right.
And so I think I have become more call it attached to the human interaction element. And I don't even love doing Zoom right now in terms of class work. I will, but but there is something right now that is missing in our lives when we are not interacting with other human beings.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. And, I only bring that up because it would seem like if we as a couple of spiritual teachers talking about our spiritual teachers necessary may seem like a 3-minute episode, but there really are some sort of topics around this, the whole guru issue and the whole fact that we can get whatever we need online or through AI or et cetera. Does it make an interaction with a teacher important? And on my website, Conscious Bridge, this is a question I've pondered a number of times, and I've either written some blogs about it on Conscious Bridge or on my personal YouTube channel. I think I filmed a video a number of years ago about spiritual teachers or gurus. And so I have given it some thought, and I really feel like we've already said, I don't feel myself as a guru, but I do really believe that we're all spiritual beings and we're moving through a human experience, but our human experience means that we've all had our own individual unique experiences and that we can glean things from one another. And sometimes it's the thing that another person knows that I need to know, and they can see it maybe where I can't see it. And so that whole need of somebody who's walked the path in a direction and they see that I'm on the same path and they maybe can give me some clues and help to drag me along the path is going to be a useful tool for me to move forward. And so, I really think that, in one way that I sort of put it, I've humorously described it, is it's almost like a conga line that we're dancing behind somebody for a little while because we're learning from them. And we got people behind us holding on from us. So while I'm learning from somebody else, they're learning from me. But then at a certain point, I veer off and maybe I'm following somebody else totally. So we're constantly learning and learning from other people and teaching other people. And I don't want to minimize the fact that we probably have had important key teachers that have stepped into the path at a critical point in our life and have assisted us.
Absolutely.
But we also and I think that what it means is we need to recognize that we're teachers too, by the very nature and you say, I don't know, do classes, et cetera. Just by the very nature of how we act and how we role model for people can be a teaching situation, and without us even thinking about it.
Yes. And I'm still waiting for you to get up and start doing the conga around your, because that's my visual.
I've got nobody to go to dance with.
Totally my visual right now is like you doing the little dancing around. So, the thing of it is too, and maybe this is a difference between guru and teacher also is, I don't sit down and think up something to teach out of just my own head. I am pulling from resources from all of the other teachers that I have paid attention to, and from classes I have taken and books that I have read, and other people's minds. And I think when we're using curriculum that's developed by someone else, all of us that in this movement have used the curriculum that's developed by Home Office. The curriculum used to be written by teams of experienced people, and there was a lot of value in those I imagine conversations where all those teachers would get together and hash out like what's the best thing to present here for new experiences and new learners. So in my mind, the guru is on the hill, like thinking all these things up and then imparting wisdom, which is lovely, but not my thing at all. Not my thing at all. So I obviously I think we're both landing in the place of, yes, teachers are necessary. I think conscious teachers are really necessary. People who are still learning and still growing and still moving forward in some way, and not reading something from 1926 and staying on that directly. I think effective teachers continue to be really strong learners.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think that the teachers that I have had that resonated the most are the ones that had a degree of humbleness
Totally.
in their nature. I have met spiritual teachers who think they're hot stuff, and and
Yeah.
that they are the font of all wisdom.
Well, that's Facebook, isn't it? It used to be Wikipedia. Now it seems to be Facebook.
But the real point is people who have a degree of narcissism about their teaching. They think like, I've discovered something and I'm going to impart it to you. And that's not to say they don't have something to give me that I can't learn from them. But at the same time, when it can be overshadowed by a sense of just feeling like they have discovered the end all of all truths, and they're here to impart that to lowly me. That tends to turn me off on the one hand, but it also questions how much they've really learned, how much they've embodied. They can have a truth, but it seems like the truth is maybe understood intellectually, but they don't see how it's being portrayed in their teaching style that comes out with a degree of hubris and narcissism in it. And that can turn me off and tells me that, yes, maybe they have learned something, but they still have a long way to grow. A long way to grow.
Long way to grow. Yeah. And it's interesting because some of those teachers end up being the ones that you read about who are abusive, or, no one, and we could say that to me, like, no one needs to beat you up about what you don't know. Right.
Yeah.
That's not how things should go in my mind anyway. It seems like we could all be past that at least, but I don't know. I do think though that this thing of learning everything from YouTube or now Claude or whatever is kind of just not healthy for our, being in spiritual community and learning in spiritual community of some sort, even if it's not church, like even a class, you go through a 6-week class with a bunch of people. Someone's going to be irritating. Someone's going to be amazing. Someone is going to chew too loudly. And all of those things are about getting some of our edges rubbed off and also create opportunities for growth and compassion and wisdom and all of these other things. And you don't get that from a video, which has been edited and perfected and, and just has one person who's not chewing anything loudly. And
I would add to that description is the classes where, yes, they've got the people that you just described, but there's also those moments in the classes where you're pushed to a point of vulnerability and authenticity and honesty that you, for lack of a better word, you break down in that moment. It doesn't mean you necessarily cry, but you can have sort of a cathartic moment where you feel that you had an aha, a breakthrough of some sort, and it comes with an emotional release. And that comes, it's hard to get that in the back and forth of where you're just simply watching a video or reading.
It doesn't happen. Yeah.
You got to have a human there's a push and pull relationship with energetically and emotionally to get to that point where you can really let go of the blinders you've put on that are holding you back from where it's something you need to see.
And then also being able to receive and accept comfort and, and the on the other side of that, the moment when somebody's telling you that they see you and they see past this block that you've had or this thing, and here it is, right? Here you go. Those moments are priceless in every class. You know, they really are. But I think that we're losing our, as a society, it seems like we've been losing our ability to be with people who are annoying, or to be with people who are not like exactly how we want them to be. And that's again, all these things are not healthy. Like, we're hearing all this stuff about people feeling lonely and separate and unable to communicate and unable to create relationships that feel real. And it seems to be driven by phones and social media and now we're going to add AI on top of it. So, I mean, I really hope that everybody who's listening to us right now gets off of this and goes on to the CSL website or their local church website somewhere and find a class, even if it's not a CSL class, go take a class, go
That's
be
right.
with people and learn things with people. And like, that's okay. We're done.
Well, what's interesting, what was coming to me when you were saying that is that a lot of times the stuff that's online or we do by ourselves can be very intellectual, and we stay in the head.
Yes.
And as we've talked about in prior weeks, that a true spiritual path involves getting into the heart. It's breaking down the aspect of our head that separates us from others, who judges people because they irritate us. And if we don't get around those people, we can't learn to see their gifts, their value, their vulnerability. We can't learn to love them in spite of their irritations. And that's what truly being in community or with others does. Whether it's in a spiritual community or you're just going to meet up groups or wherever it is, or having your circle of friends, pushing yourself into meeting and being with other people is getting back to my point that everybody is a spiritual teacher. We tend to want to label things spiritual when we get into certain subjects, but everything is spiritual. Because what we teach in New Thought is that everything is God, everything is spirit. So hence, all of the interactions of people, in a sense, are part of the spiritual path. And so things that we're doing with other people, even if they don't have a quote unquote spiritual connection to them in our mind, they are still spiritual if we are learning to love, we're learning to care, we're learning to be in community with somebody where we see the connections of things where we're alike and where we're different, and that we can still care about the person, even in spite of the differences, that there is something that is uniting us at the base of who we are, that connects us with that person. And if we don't get out and meet people and interact with them, then we fail to get those experiences.
Those are the glimpses into this thing called unconditional love. Those are the glimpses into this thing called agape, like this universal love presence that can move through us just as easily as it is moving through all of the universe. And in case you haven't met Gracie yet, she seems to like to join our podcast lately. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, she wants to be her back to the camera, but nonetheless. So anyway, I think those are our opportunities to experience and express some degree of that actually universal love, and those experiences and those moments do not come online. They just don't. And I'm kind of getting concerned about. I mean, I've been concerned about how disconnected we all are in some ways politically, and well, in a lot of ways politically, but in many ways, because it's easier to watch YouTube than to get dressed and go somewhere on a Sunday morning. But I don't think it's serving us at all. Like, we need conflict, and we need to have to resolve things, and we need practice at being resilient and caring when we, like, I could not like you, but still care about you. And we have to practice those things.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess right now I'm feeling like a really long commercial for somebody to go take a class of some sort.
Well, speaking of commercials,
I don't have one to offer, but
now that we've convinced everybody to turn off YouTube or whatever video system they're watching in this moment, let's give them a commercial that reminds them to support this platform. Right. So everybody, we come to you by the good graces of the New Thought Media Network. We hope you're enjoying this program. We've got more to say about spiritual teachers in a moment, but right now what we'd like to do is to remind you that this network comes and is supported by your contributions. So let's please listen to this commercial for just a moment.
We hope you're enjoying Conversations in Mind. This program is made possible by the New Thought Media Network, a nonprofit that's supporting conscious, spiritual media. If you'd like to support this work, just scan the QR code to make a donation. It lets the network know you like this show and helps them to continue bringing you this type of content. You can also go to ntmedia.org and click on Donate. Thank you for being part of the conversation. Now, back to the show.
So if you're watching this, you can scroll back just a little bit and catch that QR code, and and we appreciate all of that support. We also love it when you make comments, like our posts, make comments, ask a question, give us a topic that you want us to talk about. Like that's, we're making lists, but we would love to make a list that includes whatever it is that you would love to hear about us go on about for 40 minutes or so.
Yeah, ditto. Everybody, leave a comment and be sure to support the New Thought Media Network. And no amount is too small. Though, and large amounts are welcome as well. And it helps this network, all of the programs that come through this New Thought Media Network. It helps support the whole broadcast system for it. Yeah. So teachers, I want to go back and pick up on something we were talking about earlier. I mentioned this, my little conga line thing, but what sort of comes with that too is the mindset for me that we tend to think that there's one size fits all for teachers. So I know when I would read a lot of spiritual books, it'd say, oh, all the people went to this particular guru, they all sat at his feet. They all felt like, they got some sort of transmission. And I know people who have gone to people and have had energetic transmissions. I've been in sessions where, people say they received a transmission. I've tasted a lot of different spiritual teachers throughout my path. But what I've come to realize is that since we're all teaching one another, there's not really one teacher out there for us. And for most people, I want to say that because it's like, because of the infinite variety of humans, the needs of humans vary so much that there are always going to be some people who learn best with a very dogmatic and controlling teacher who sees the best for them and presents what they need for their movement forward. There's always going to be, for whatever the most extreme teaching in my mind can be, there's always going to be somebody that's what they need because there's such variety of people. But what I think for the vast majority of people, I think we need to look at the fact that teachers are useful and helpful. And as long as a teacher is serving your needs and serving your growth, and you feel that you are getting something from that teacher, continue to learn from them. But it's also okay to recognize when you have gotten what you need from that teacher and to let that teacher go. And it doesn't mean they have to go from your life totally, but you can all now focus your energies on listening to or gleaning the wisdom from somebody else. And so my conga line thing is really to get at the fact that we can learn from somebody until we feel like we're no longer learning. And then we can find somebody else to learn from and be from them. And then we're learning from somebody else, so that there's an infinite variety of ways in which we can learn. We can stick with one teacher all of our life, and there are many people who may need that. But most people are going to learn from multiple people. And I think there's also a recognition that the role that we play to look around us and say, are there people who are needing community, needing love, needing support, needing something that I already have? And is there how I can give? I may not want to necessarily, teach a class or go through a curriculum or anything formal, but can I sit down with coffee and talk about spiritual matters with somebody or anything with anybody and serve as a teacher to other people? And just recognize that we play these dual roles all the time, and that no rule is or role is going to be constant forever, and that the variety of what people needs is going to be infinitely different. So there's no one size fits all teacher for everybody.
So I want to go back to something you said, though. You were talking about being in the presence of somebody and feeling like you received some transmission.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But don't you think that if in any place in your life you were willing to get that still and that open and centered and focused on somebody, that you would probably and they are in turn also centered and focused and in some sort of flow state, that you would, with almost anyone, receive something like that? I mean, I know there are a few people that like, is it Amma, I think, where people just go and sit in her presence, right?
Right.
And somehow something is imparted. But I'm always wondering, like, it's to me, it's a little bit like the Dalai Lama. Like, if any of us had been chosen as a child, taught extensively, told that we were the manifestation of the spiritual guru on earth, or God, or whatever, however, and raised in that way, that we would all be the Dalai Lama,
Yeah.
and that we would, and same thing, like if we're showing up in someone's presence, it's that thing to me. It's that, is it the belief before the act? Is it the believing that creates the thing, or is it the thing that creates the feedback loop that allows us to believe? And therein lies my rabbit hole.
Can I tell you what I hear you asking? Is that when you're in the presence of somebody who supposedly has a presence that can impart something, is it who's bringing the wisdom to the table for the transmission? Is it the teacher, or is it the learner, or is it both?
Well, I think it's both. I mean, I think both. To experience it, you have to be a learner, but also you have to be in that reciprocal energy.
Yes.
I don't think that happens. And so is this person really imparting something, or are people open to receiving something they've been told they're going to receive?
Yeah, as a student of Ernest Holmes, he talked about the mental atmosphere that we all create by the nature of our thoughts, and that we can walk around and bump into people who have very positive attitudes, and we like being in their presence, and we can think about people who have very negative attitudes, and we can't wait to get out of their presence. And so if you think about just positive and negativity in terms of a person's style and approach towards life, yes, I believe there are people who are so spiritual or so in tune with the one infinite spirit that they can walk around and be so exuding the mental atmosphere of their presence of the divine that we can pick up on that. And there have been people in my life that I know that I've bumped into that exuded love. And that was the only thing I could say about it was love coming from those people. Something about their smiles, their twinkle in their eyes. There was something, and I just wanted to be around those people because they were such loving presences. And I think that so can somebody impart something? Back to that question, I really think that yes, there can be a spiritual teacher who is so in tune with the infinite that they can be aware of the presence that they are giving and the energy that they are giving off through their mental and psychic atmosphere, that we can palpably pick up on it. I think, however, that we can be more in tune to that the more that we have opened ourselves to be a conduit for receiving it. Yes. And so we can come into a situation and here, knowing that this person gives transmissions, we can go into those moments and say, I'm going to be an open conduit for receiving it, and I believe it. Or I can be this is a bunch of BS, and I'm not going to believe a word of, there's no way he's transmitting anything to me. This is all just crap, and we're both going to get what we want. We're both going to get what our mind said we were going to get, because in one hand, we were open to receiving the loving information of a transmission from somebody's spiritual energy. And the other, we're going to see that we didn't get anything and label it crap. So we bring the receptivity to the equation.
Which requires some vulnerability and some willingness to be open to whatever shows up, right?
Right.
And know that you're going to be okay, however that ends up going.
Yeah, which gets back to the fact that, if you think, even in the cases where teachers that I thought had something to teach, but I thought they had such a degree of hubris that I couldn't get the message from them because their hubris was shining so bright. Was that me? To a degree, there probably was some degree of me that read something in it. There could have been some shadow aspect of Mark that picked up on a behavioral pattern of the teacher that said, oh, well, they're obviously full of themselves, because I identified something in them that was something that I had experienced previously in my life, but I couldn't see it. All I did was in that moment see that person, looks like it, they're a jerk. They're full of themselves. They're non-truthful. They're not somebody I can trust, etc. And I'm not going to be open to receiving any kind of, I can see logically they have something to give and teach and people are getting something from them. But if I'm coming in with a closed mind about it, because then I'm also closing myself off to the possibilities of what I might need to get from them. And that's not to say there's not teachers out there who have hubris and full of themselves and doing, abusing their students in some way. And you need to be open to that and be open to, to the fact that you need to have healthy boundaries towards teachers who are not the ones for you. But
and there are teachers out there that are kind of full of themselves, but who actually know some things.
Yes, exactly.
And
that's the point.
That's the sorting.
What does the boundary end with me to them versus where am I open to where I can hear what they have to say that maybe is of benefit to me? I think, if you can take yourself to say, every spiritual teacher, well, Ken Wilber, I often mention him. There's something he likes to say is that everybody has some truth, and if I look at it that way, what's the one truth in this person that I can get from them? What is the one thing that they can teach me in this moment that I can be open to hearing? Is there something I'm debating and considering that they're verifying for me? What am I getting from this person? If it's nothing, that's fine. But if I just simply close my mind off to them because of their personality or their style or their reputation, I may be missing an opportunity to learn something. That doesn't mean I got to go sit at their feet and worship them, but it does mean listen to them and see if there's something they have to say that's a piece of the puzzle for me.
Mm-hmm. And probably.
And probably, yes.
Probably, right? Sometimes it's the friction that's the teacher.
Yeah.
In some interesting ways, and that shows up in a lot of life, but friction ends up being our teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The people who piss me off have something for me to look at for my shadow. That's for certain. But that still doesn't mean it's not
so
about
annoying that it has to work that way.
Yeah.
It really is very annoying that it has to work that way. So yeah, I think here's the other thing. I don't think that you have to sign up for I'm starting to think that you don't have to just sign up for a spiritual class experience. You can go anywhere to learn something and have it turn into a spiritual experience. I took a class from Ollie, the lifelong learning program, right, in Fort Collins recently. There was women in cartography. Ended up opening up these crazy conversations that were, about boundaries and edges and map moving. And but all of that stuff to me all of it has some sort of spiritual wisdom in it. So maybe that's just me being weird right now, but all of it with a learning approach ends up being somehow spiritual or connecting or something, It
gets back to the point I was saying earlier that everything is spiritual and everything we're doing has a spiritual message in it.
Yes.
I read books that are scientific or logical or philosophical, they may not have anything to be labeled spiritual, yet I'll get something from them that, feeds my curiosity and is a piece of the puzzle for the spiritual truths that I've come to accept and believe. And so it's sort of it gives me an aha moment. The book itself may not be spiritual at all. It may be dealing with the human condition, the crap that's going on in the world right now. And all of a sudden I'll be reading that or listening to something, and it will give me an insight that helps me see the spiritual universe a little bit clearer.
I've been spending some time talking with somebody about design theory and learning this whole other way of creating business or creating businesses. And it's loaded with, to me, much of it is loaded with all of this and consciousness and connection and all these other things that we build into spiritual community or trying to build into spiritual community show up in this a whole new way of looking at designing a product and putting it out into the world. And the conversation ends up being about what consciousness do you bring to it? What awareness do you bring to it? It's like this conversation is everywhere. I mean, we've talked about this a number of times, this conversation about the spiritual nature of things or connection and consciousness and creation is everywhere and in everything right now.
Right.
And that is what I believe is going to move us through what's happening in the way. It is the propeller behind and the vision forward for what's happening in the world right now, I think.
Yeah.
In all of my whatever wisdom.
Well, just adding to what you just said, Barb, is I see so much in our modern entertainment, streaming series, movies, things like that, where it may have, they're telling a good story, but if you look through the story, either by the language used by the characters or by the arc of the entire story, you see spiritual messages everywhere around you. And they may not label them as spiritual, but they are really, and they're spiritual teachers too. That's a spiritual learning opportunity for us.
We could do a whole movie review or a whole TV show review. And we've talked about shrinking a couple of times, but I mean, there's been a couple of movies recently that are just full of this. In fact, have you watched the one about oh God, of course the name is going to leave me right now in this moment on video, about the guy out in space, living on his own.
No. You're talking about the movie that came out with Ryan Gosling.
Yes, Ryan Gosling. Yes, it's not coming to you either. I didn't prep for that.
No, I've not seen that.
It's actually really good, and it's really loaded with all of these things in a very different sort of way. But he had a T-shirt that said "I had potential" because he has all these physics T-shirts. So I actually had that one. I should wear that on the show sometime. I had to buy one. I did it. I had potential.
So then the question, is our spiritual teachers outdated or are they necessary? What's the bottom line here for our
bottom line? I would say the right spiritual teachers are absolutely necessary, and it is more about connection than anything else. And what about you? Well,
it's look and see that your spiritual teachers are all around you.
Right.
You're being taught all the time. It's not one person. It may be for certain of you, be one person, but for most of it, it's many people, many of them just temporary and in a quick moment.
Yeah.
For a short period of time. And also remember that you're a spiritual teacher too. It's not something that's outdated, but it's something that is necessary as we support each other in remembering the truth of our oneness, that we're all in this together. So why would not the other face of God that we're talking to have a message for us that could be useful to remember that we're the face of God as well?
I don't remember what other teacher I got this exercise from, but I just taught a class, and as I ended the class, I asked people to take a look at who's at their table. Is there somebody at their table that they're learning from? Is there somebody at their table they're teaching and supporting? Is there somebody at their table who is a challenge? Is there somebody like who is at your table? And to be conscious about choosing a table that has those things or those people. We all need someone that challenges us. We all need someone that pulls us forward. We all need someone that knows more than we do. And we all need someone we can support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very true. So that seems like a good point to end today. How about it?
Who's at your table? And here we are.
and be at a table with people.
Be at a table. That's the main thing. Yes, be at a table. Well, thank you, Mark. This was good. This was a good conversation. Appreciate your time and your energy and what you bring. I appreciate doing this with you.
Ditto. Same here, Barb. Take care, everybody, and thanks for being with us.